Hinawash day, everyone. Good morning. I apologize. I'm not original steward of this land, but I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Zineta Zepeda. On my mother's side, I'm Sichangu Lakota and Deschini Navajo. And on my dad's side, I'm Vietnamese. I would like to honor and acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories and ancestral lands of the Lepang Comanche, the Caddo, Tonkokan, Comecrudo, Qualacan, and Caracan people.
Scarupe yada tunala ya Juan, Chinje Alicia, Chinje Isabel. Greetings everyone, my name is Juan Martinez, son of Alicia, daughter of Isabel. My people come from the Isthmus de Tehuantepec, Oaxaca, the Zapotec people, the Benedictza, the Cloud people. And I am honored to be a part of the Aspen Institute team, where our values are to center and honor the love that is in this room and unrelentlessly go into that. And so I want to honor that moment in this time right now and ask a couple of things, 3 things from you. One of them is to think about the word gratitude. For us, gratitude in our ways, in many of the indigenous ways, gratitude is like just something that we do and live with. It is the root of prayer. It is the root of ceremony. And so as you think about the words thank you, I also want you to take those words outside into the space, into the land, and whisper those words, because in them you find the echoes of our ancestors who carry that love and ceremony for us. The second part is to really think about the themes throughout today, belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. Think about someone who has meant those words for you, someone who has embodied those words to you. Maybe it was a mentor, maybe it was a family member. And on the count of 3, I want you to speak their name into this space. 1, 2, 3.
Shawn Ginwright.
Isabel. And thank you for adding to the sacredness of this time and space. Time is love. And if you show me where your time is spent, I know what your love means. And finally, a big gratitude to our young leaders here who have centered what it means to do this. And I also want to reflect that we are indigenous peoples and natives peoples and tribes peoples, and we are here today. We are not a history, as many of you know, and in our partnership with us today. And as you listen throughout the plenaries and hear the different languages and introductions, just know that we are here with you. We have always been here and will continue to be here through our resilience and the blessings of our ancestors. So with that, gratitude to the original stewards of this land, where we are invited guests or uninvited guests, and it is our job and duty to request that invite or to seek out that invite. And as a displaced indigenous person myself, I am constantly looking for that invite and that invitation as a guest. And so I encourage you to go on your own journey to seek out that invitation from your homes and where you're settling.
Yeah, mahalo Juan and mahalo Z. I'll actually step down from the stage because, you know, in the Pacific, we don't like to stand above anybody, nor do we like to stand below. There's only one way to do business, and that's just to talk straight across, as we say. In honor of Juan and that message to a little bit of wisdom from the Pacific is there are 2 types of people in the world, as taught to me by one of my teachers, Kahu Kalani. And that's a kama'aina or a malihini. You're either a child of the place, you know the place, you know everybody on that street that you live on, or you're not from the place. And it is the equal duty of the kama'aina to seek out the malihini, to educate the malihini on the behaviors of what it means to live in a space, as much as it is the malihini or the visitor's job to find those who live in that place. So with doing what we did, we want to open up with a pule, or as we say in Hawaii, which starts with the sound of the pu, either the conch shell or the bamboo trumpet to gather the akua, which is our creator, from the 4 corners, as many know. So opening up in the pule, opening up in the prayer, just acknowledging that and calling forth the Creator, and we'll provide the brief translation too. But mai kawanalio, mai kawanalipo, mai kahikina, mai kaulana. Ye hele mai oia kue ke akua. Ye hele mai oe ku ahina akane atangaroa. Mahalo e ke akua. No ke ia la me te po mai ta atu nei. Thank you, Creator, for this day and for the long blessed nights. And mahalo in na wahine o ke kai. No, na mea ola a pao. And thank you to the woman who is the sea, from which all life came. Mahalo i tala, mahalo i awakea, mahalo e papahana motu, e pai aina, e ola mai. Thank you to the grandfather son, to the sky father, to the earth mother on whom we all reside. And mahalo, mahalo e mahina, no ka le kuhimana I ike mai. Mahalo mahina nui, mai tapo I te ao. And thank you to the grandmother moon who gives us the times and the tides, and the great grandmother who from space brought us light. And mahalo, he melene me he hulapa e ho'oponopono. And thank you for the songs and for the dance and the opportunity to make things right. And mahalo, mahalo na aumakua, mahalo e ke akua. And thank you to the ancestral guardians, and thank you again to our Creator who stands behind all things. Inna uhane ikavai, o kane ikavai ola, who resides in the spirit of the water. Mahalo anui and amana uanoa, and so is lifted the prayer. Mahalo.
Finally got the name.
Yeah.
Mahalo to my friend for that beautiful recognition, and to all three of you all, thank you for doing such a beautiful bringing us together. Hey everybody, Steve Patrick from the Forum for Community Solutions. Good to be back with you. How many of you were at Antone's last night? I was glad that part of the prayer was a mahalo for the dancing, because we do a little prayer for my back. But that was special, and we're going to continue that special moment. And you know, we talked a little bit about the healing power of culture last night, for those of you who could hear, and that's so essential, so integral to who we are and the work we do, and the power of what young people do as a part of this movement that we're all engaged in. And I think the blues represents that. You know, Dr. Cornel West says we are a blues people. You know, the blues is such a part of the struggle in America. And it's so embedded in the ability to have joy even in the face of such deep and powerful oppression. And so the blues is healing. Anybody who was with us in Arizona and New Mexico last time we got together? It was hard to miss out on the healing power of culture and of participation. For those of you who made it out to Jemez to watch the dances on a feast day when they hadn't danced in 4 or 5 years because of COVID, just a powerful thing. And so I view the blues as a part of that. And that's why we wanted to be at Antone, such a historic place. Muddy Waters, B.B. King, and the Aspen OYF all played there. And we're gonna continue the special, special power of the blues with a special performance. And I'm not gonna say much more, except because he knows what he's doing way better than I know what I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna get off the stage and just say, 3-time Grammy Award nominee, Sal Paul.
If you can hear me right now, make some noise. All right, all right. That was a song that I wrote called Be the Change. It launched this campaign that I launched, a social good campaign called Be the Change, which led to the launch of this beverage company called Saul Paul's Change Water. Myself, I am Saul Paul. I'm a 3-time Grammy nominee, 3-time TED Talker. Each of my TED Talks has been about change making. One was about my unique story, and I've been featured on America's Got Talent. Nowadays, my life is a series of triumphant moments, but that's not how it began. It began in tragedy. Question, how many people here have a mama? Mother, madre, mommy? Yeah, make some noise for mamas. I can't raise my hand, I don't have one. My mom died in a car accident when I was 3. My dad left before I was born, so through no fault of my own, I was placed in foster care. However, this amazing woman named Pearlie swooped in like Wonder Woman. She adopted me, and she taught me what it was to be the change. She changed my life. Unfortunately, though she did the best she could, I was still raised in one of the treacherous ghettos in Houston. I was raised in extreme poverty, food stamps, government cheese, powdered milk. Got arrested by the FBI when I was 17, went to the penitentiary when I was 20, convicted of 4 felonies. However, as I sat in prison, I realized that life is the sum total of the choices you make. I changed my choices, I changed my life. I got out of prison. That's what brought me to Austin. I went to this prestigious university called the University of Texas at Austin. And then I graduated from UT with the 4.0 after being convicted of 4 felonies. At that point, I realized I had an inherent responsibility to do more than be a good citizen. I had an inherent responsibility to lead. I have an inherent responsibility to give back, be the change. And I took what my grandmother showed me. That's who adopted me, my grandmother. And even though there was a 65-year age gap, she showed me what it was to lead. And so I took that, and that's when I started this campaign called Be the Change. We've impacted millions of people across the globe. Again, coming from poverty, I've been able to make a living doing what it is that I do, so it's an amazing thing. And then after the Grammy nominations, I realized I had a different responsibility because that gave me a different platform. And I'm sharing this with you because I believe in relational teaching and learning, so this isn't just my story. Hopefully you see how it parallels to yours, right? And I recognized that, like, okay, cool, so I got this platform, so what I'm going to do with it now? And I had to figure it out. It didn't come easy. And so that's why I started this beverage company called Change Water. We sell it all across the country. The cool part is we donate 50% of our profits to local schools and nonprofits. Last fall, we gave away 100 $5,000 scholarships to 100 Title I schools across the country in 32 different states and impacted 75,000 people. Cool, cool, cool. I'm just saying what a little black boy from the ghetto with no mama and daddy who went to the penitentiary did. Because they don't tell our stories, so we have to tell our own stories. Actually, after this, myself and my co-leader will be leading a workshop called Tell Your Story, because the truth is we each have a story, 7 billion plus people on the planet, and we each have a story. Hopefully you recognize yours. If not, we would love to help you understand and recognize your story so that you could tell it, so that you could become more and you could leverage it and impact the most amount of people that you can. Now, with that being said, I need a volunteer. Oh, she ready. All right, cool. Wait, okay. Wait. They got me on the clock. I will bring you up. I don't know if I got time for that because you look like you walk slow. Hold up. I ain't mad at you. It's good. Okay, but you volunteer number 1. Let me see. I need another volunteer. Actually, I'm gonna walk. So yeah, you can go ahead and just meet me up there on the stage. Yep. I need another volunteer. Okay, there she go. All right, volunteer right there. Meet me on the stage. This is why I get to go first. This is sad. It's taking all this that y'all like hungover, drunk, sleepy, not a morning person. It shouldn't take all that to get some volunteers. I need another volunteer. Okay, he ready. Bam. All right. I know she ready. All right, bam. All right, that's 4. I need, where the youth at? I need somebody under the age of 21. Okay. Bam. Did you want to come, though? You want to come? All right. You just want to show off your suit. Come on, man. Come on. Gang recognized gang. He like, this is my chance. I could do it smooth. You know what I'm saying? Like, huh? Ah, yeah, gang recognized gang. All right. Now I need somebody that identifies, let me see. I need a young person under the age of 21 that identifies as they or female. Do we not have any at all? Okay, you don't even have to come. I just want to make sure that we got some, though. Is that accurate? Try 25? Huh? Ah, Steve with the data. I see you there, sir. All right. I need somebody under that, a young female that identifies as she, pronouns is she, he, her, or she. Okay. Come join us, quick. Well, take your time, you don't gotta rush, just come, all right. Perfect, this is great balance right here. Like, y'all are amazing. Like, did y'all coordinate that? All right. Y'all ever see that TV show, America's Got Talent? All right, cool. I never watched it till they invited me to be on it. When they invited me to be on it, it was an amazing thing, great experience, and now I'm a fan of the show. It's amazing, the people that they put on it. So they flew me out, put me on stage. When I was there, Mariah Carey's ex-husband was the MC. Anybody know who that is? Nobody said it to you. Y'all laughing, but nobody said it. I'm like, Nick Cannon, okay. That was a test. I was checking the temperature, because you'll either say Nick Cannon or you'll be like, which one? If you say which one, I see where y'all at. Okay, but y'all said Nick Cannon. All right, so Nick Cannon had on a teeny tiny suit, a big bow tie, and a Kool-Aid smile. Welcome to Texas. That's what we say in Texas, Kool-Aid smile when you be cheesing. He had a Kool-Aid smile, and he was like, Saw Paul, what you gonna do for us? I said, I'm gonna freestyle. He said, about what? I said, I don't know, give me a word. So I'm about to crowdsource a song. We will all collectively make it together. And these are our VIPs up on stage who are brave enough to volunteer. So y'all have one job. Everybody say one job. You got one job. I'm gonna ask each person to give me one word. Or as we say in my barrio, palabra. Anybody speak Spanish? Okay, welcome to Texas. All right, cool. I like your glasses. I'm gonna pick you first. Look, Kimberly, ready. Everybody say, hey, Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly. Kimberly, what's your word?
Flourish.
All right, so this is how we're gonna do this. Time is ticking, so I'm gonna be quick. I'm gonna get the word, I repeat it to you, you clap and you celebrate them. Kimberly's word was flourish. What's your word, sir?
Excellence.
Excellence. Wait. The first shall be third. All right. What's your name?
Nemesis.
I love that. All right. Nemesis. What's your word?
Resilience.
Resilience. Kevin, a.k.a. K Boogie, what's your word? Okay, if you're trying to figure out how I knew your name, I can read, sir. All right, I threw you off. I'm going to give you some time. I threw you off. He like, what? How did he know that? I'm going to give you time. I ain't going to hold you. Hold up. What's your word?
Smile.
Smile. I encourage you. Maybe it's you. I notice sometimes people like to have chips on their shoulders, so they don't like to smile. Even when you succeeded, you like so passionate. I'm talking to you specifically. Just the other week, I had to send a picture for a bio because I'm a part of this cohort called Just Leadership. It's a bunch of ex-felons like myself who are community leaders. And then I'm going to be performing there, and they was like, send a picture. And I was going to send this picture. I was looking smooth, Rico Suave in the picture, but I wasn't smiling. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to send that one. Send one with me smiling. That's what I told my team, because I realized I have a responsibility to show my joy. And some of you are survivors, you've overcome, you're an overcomer, and it's like, cool, I know you're mad, I know you got to disrupt everything. Do it with a smile. Even look better when you smile, because people appreciate what you actually did. They're like, why are they still smiling? That's power right there. All right, Kevin, what's your word?
Change.
Change. All right, I got you. Okay, we got last two. Okay, I can't decide. Both of y'all come up here quick. When you're an artist, I encourage you, and we are all artists. So it's like, understand, it's levels to it, right? But we're all artists, and the more artistic you are, the more you're in tune with that, your intuition, which is really just your gut, and you kind of just know what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. That's how I pick people. That's how I pick who I'm going to pick when I'm picking the word, but sometimes I don't hear it. And then I still got to move, though, right? Because the clock is still ticking right now. So I'm like, how should I decide? And this is an age-old technique that works. You can use it in your own life, especially for conflict resolution. We're going to do rock, paper, scissors. Sudden death. Drum roll. Wait. Drum roll, please. Hold up, wait. Okay, pause. Hold up. My bad. I don't know if y'all hang around young people. I do. So you might have came up like I did. We used to do rock, paper, scissors. That's not how they do it in 2023. It's rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Look at y'all. Okay. Y'all got that. I see that. Okay, hold on, wait. Drum roll one more time. I'm going to get my Fast and Furious on. Wait for it when I go to flag. Go. She got him. All right, hold up, wait. You get to stand there. I'm going to reach you back over here. Tell me your name again, sir.
Leroy Silva.
Leroy?
Yes.
Give it up for my man, Leroy. All right, Leroy. I love that piece right there, sir. I appreciate good pieces. That's a beautiful piece. All right, Leroy, what's your word?
Hanu, which means people in my language.
I like it. I want to say it right. I want to respect the Hanu. Hanu. How do I say your name?
Kaya.
Everyone say, hey, Kaya. I want you to give it up for your 2023 Opportunity Youth Aspen Institute rock, paper, scissors champion. All right. Kaya, right? Because I'm bad with names. All right. Kaya, what's your word?
Love.
Love. All right. Everybody line up. I want to take a photo with y'all real quick. We got to do this in 20 seconds. Line up. I need somebody on my team. Okay, cool. Perfect. We're going to take this. All right. This is Bianca Neal right here. Everyone say, hey, Bianca. All right, I'll tell you about her later. Let me slide up here in the middle with y'all. All right, I want to stand next to the champion. Give it up for these brave volunteers. I need, let me see. This is perfect. So I'm about to make a song from the words that y'all just gave me. I need some help, though, because I brought some gifts. I need like 8 volunteers. You don't have to come on stage. You don't even have to dance. I just need you to help me pass something out. All right. I need 4 of y'all on that side, 4 of y'all on that side. They'll help you out. Check me out. Let me see. One time. Yeah. All right. So, I'm on America's Got Talent. Nick's like, all right, Saul Paul, you got these words, now what? I said, now I'm going to make a song. He said, cool. I'm saying, well, he's like, for you to make a song, you need some music, right? I'm like, yes, I'm going to make that up first. So if you watch, I got a bunch of fancy equipment. You can't see it all. But it lets me, control stuff with my feet. So I'm about to make this whole song from scratch. And then we're about to collectively make a song. Check it out. True story. I learned to play guitar because I don't do blues really. I'm a rapper, but then I started to see people's conscious and unconscious bias, especially with my background. They was like, "Oh, he a rapper, so he'd be good for this group." But my goal is to literally change the world, so I had to figure out how to create a bridge. So I learned to play guitar just so I could reach white people. Give it up. True story. But I still like beats, so check it out. right, so now we got some music. We got beats. Now we need a chorus. Real quick. N-O-W, what's that spell? Every time I point to y'all, y'all say, check it out. If your mind's right, you can shine right, be tight right, be bright right. If your mind's right, it goes down right. Okay. Now y'all off beat. Let's just do the last part, just the last part. You got to push through. Look at that. It takes heart 5 times. If your mind's right, you can shine right, be tight right, be bright right. Hey, if your mind's right, it goes down right. Now. If your mind's right, you can shine right, be tight right, be bright right. Hey, if your mind's right, it goes down right. Give it up for yourselves. All right, perfect. Our timing is immaculate. Let me see. Okay. Let me see. We got flourish. Hanu, did I say it right? Hanu, okay. Flourish, Hanu, smile, change. What else did I get? Love, excellence, and resilience. Anytime I use one of those words, I want you to do this thing we do down here in Texas called chunk the deuce. Do you know how to do it? Okay. I'm going to be inclusive because like 12% of you know how to do it, so it's not fair to the other 88. Everybody hold up your peace sign. Turn your hand backwards facing you. Bend your wrist like this. Go back where you started. Repeat. Hey. So if I say excellence, what do? If I say resilience, if I say Hanu, if I say change, smile. All right, let's do it. If your mind's right, you can shine right, be tight right, be bright right. If your mind's right, it goes down right. If your mind's right, you can shine right, be tight right, be bright right. If your mind's right, it goes down right. Now. Look. If you do good, you will flourish. But you gotta feed your soul, so you nourish. And check this out. Say, please don't be discouraged. Be resilient, and then you can have courage. This is for my people. Leroy says, Hanu. Check this out. I walk on water, don't need no canoe. Look how I do. Speaking my fly high, I cool. People say I got a high IQ. Okay, it didn't help me when I was in the pen. What really set me free was when I started pimping pens. Since then, hey, I've been really good. Change on my chain, cause I be really hood. But still I graduate UT. So now on the stage, smiling's what you see. Now check it out. We gon' do it on 3. Take it to the hook. I'm talking about you and me. If your mind's right, then you shine right. Be tight right. Be bright, right? Hey, if your mind's right, it goes down right. Now. Last time. If your mind's right, you can shine right. Be tight right. Be bright, right? Hey, if your mind's right, it goes down right. Make some noise. Literally. Stop clapping. Stop. Quick. My buzzer just went off. Wait. I need 10 seconds. I just gave everybody a bottle of change water. On the change water, there's a QR code. If you scan the QR code, you can join the Be the Change Challenge. You can find out more, just scan it. It's easy, but last year when we saw those 75,000 people, 15,000 of them joined the Be the Change Challenge and collectively volunteered 64,000 hours. You're amazing. I can't wait for you to join. I'm Saul Paul. Thank you for having me.
Hey, there you are. I'm going to go up there.
So Aspen OYF family, join me once again in showing South Paul some love.
Were you partying last night?
So welcome everyone. My name is Monique Miles and I have the honor and privilege of co-leading the Opportunity Youth Forum and Fun in partnership with the Aspen Forum fam. If you are a colleague in the Aspen Forum fam, please stand up right now so this whole room can show you some love. Come on, colleagues, stand up, stand up. Thank you to each of you for everything you've done to get us here successfully today. I want to also kick off this address by acknowledging and thanking our host and partners, Workforce Solutions Capital Area. Thank you, Tamara Atkinson and Damian Garcia, for your 10-year partnership that led to this network convening in Austin. Let's show them some love. I also want to thank our site visit hosts, American Youth Works, Austin Community College, the Make It Center, Goodwill Excel Center Adult High School, LifeWorks, and the Black Austin Historic Geographical Tour. Thank you all for hosting our network and making space for our partners from across the U.S. and from other countries to learn and place. We appreciate all of you, and I also want to thank Park Smith at American Youth Works for helping us foster connections across the city, including hosting our 10th, leading to the 10th anniversary party celebration we had at Antone's last night. And speaking of Antone's, as Steve reminded us this morning, I want to get just a little bit more call and response going. So I need you to make some noise if you were with us last night and you heard either Houston Tillotson or W.C. Clark perform. Make some noise. Okay. So now, if you made it to Antone's last night and you got on a dance floor, listen, if you did the electric slide, if you boogied down the Soul Train line, if you simply danced in your small circle with your people, I need you, if you was moving and grooving on a dance floor last night, to make some noise. Now, here is the most important question I have for everyone in the room. If you got to join us last night and you experienced some joy, some expression of play, some connection to community, some connection to your people, some love in this place. If you experienced just a little bit of healing last night, come on and make some noise, family. See, we know, Saul Paul just so beautifully reminded us, music is a connector, it's a healer, it's a balm. And we as a network, we are on a learning journey destined to center belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose into the system, structures, and narratives that touch the lives of our young people and our communities. And in order to do our work, we must also be a network that is on a healing journey, because healing is the foundation for how we get to belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose, yes? It's also how we get to agency, self-determination, community power building, and transforming our world, so that our young adult partners not only thrive, but our ability to thrive, to experience joy, to hold each other in an abundance of love. Everything our ancestors wanted for us is passed on to our descendants and future generations, because that's what our work is. Dreaming an expansive, inclusive future, and then coming together day after day, month after month, year after year, to do the work of our minds, the work of our hands, and the work of our hearts. And so, family, that's what our time here in Austin is about. And given our future-facing work, we are going to begin our learning together today with a conversation on healing. And we are honored to have one of the foremost thinkers and leaders on healing, Dr. Shawn Ginwright, or Dr. G, as some of us call him, back with us again. He's back in the building, y'all, to partner with us on how we continue to center healing in our work. So I'm really honored to reintroduce him, but first I must, because it's also our 10th anniversary, I want to very quickly, at a very high level, I have 5 slides on impact that I'm gonna walk through as quickly as I possibly can. So I'm asking my friends in the back to go ahead and tee up the slides. Thank you, all right. So first and foremost, what I want to do with this first slide is I want to acknowledge and attribute this slide to everyone in this room. See, from 2010 to 2019, the national number of Opportunity Youth in the U.S. decreased by more than 1 million due to the commitment of partners in this room, including our communities, leaders, organizations, who are not here in this room with us today. So when we celebrate the impact depicted in the slide, it's important to lift up and celebrate the Dorothy Stomans and Karen Pittmans. It's important to note the YO sites, the Youth Transition Funders Group, National League of Cities, National Youth Employment Coalition, CLASP, American Youth Policy Forum, and so many others who have invested in and built the infrastructure, strategies, and outputs that led to a 25% reduction in OY over 9 years. Come on, let's give it up. Let's clap for this. And most importantly, what's so important about this slide is it helps to set our future vision. It's because of this slide that we can say that over the next 10 years, we look forward to partnering with everyone here and everyone across the U.S. to reduce the number of opportunity youth by 50% by 2033. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide. In 2013, we launched our network with 21 collaboratives across the U.S. From the beginning, we were committed to including Native, Indigenous, and tribal communities in addition to rural communities in our network. When John Powell addresses our network tomorrow for the second time and shares his vision of belonging, he's going to talk about the power of sharing all of our stories, many different types of stories, and our efforts to foster a world of belonging. And for our team at Aspen, from the very beginning of our work, we were dreaming about telling many different types of stories from many different types of communities working in partnership with young people to get to better outcomes. And so we are especially excited that our network has doubled over 10 years and that many of our new communities are Native, Indigenous, and tribal partners, because all together we are dreaming of a narrative sky that reflects an inclusive and diverse range of stories, lived experiences, cultures, identities, and so many different ways of how we all together belong. And that slide that was previously up inspires us on this journey. And so for those of you who were back with us in 2013, next slide. Thank you. For those of you who were back with us in 2013, when we launched our network, you may remember that the very first plenary we hosted in Aspen was on structural racism. Dr. Gretchen Susie from the Aspen Institute Roundtable for Community Change walked us through what structural racism is, and our young adult partners helped us articulate a vision for how to address structural racism in our collective work. And we share that history because as a network, we have been committed to racial equity from our launch 10 years ago, family. And while some of the language across the field has shifted, our commitment to addressing racism has been unwavering, especially since 77% of OY in our communities are youth of color, and 88% of partners offering direct services across our network are people of color. Next slide. Thank you. All right. So this slide was developed from findings gleaned from our annual assessment. Each dot represents OYF collaboratives within our network. Most importantly, this slide helps us to understand that increased collaborative capacity, increased collaborative infrastructure is correlated with system impact, a collaborative's ability to drive system change. Therefore, this finding informs our national learning agenda, the delivery of technical assistance, and how we think about the relationship between backbone capacity and long-term sustainability. This finding is integral to advocating for public investment in collaborative capacity, and we look forward to partnering with our network as we use these findings to inform our long-term goals. Next and final slide. OYF delivers a significant and important return on investment, y'all. Over the past 10 years, our evaluation findings have helped us identify 20 billion, I'm gonna say this again, 20 billion in return savings born out of, that's right, with a B, born out of investments in Opportunity Youth. Our data shows that every year over 50% of OY and partner services attain a major outcome, like graduation or work. Additionally, OYF partners are working with an equal number of youth on prevention-oriented services that are not even reflected in these numbers. Most importantly, over 10 years, we have seen the 20 billion in direct savings and another 40 billion in reduced social costs. This work is important to our long-term economic health, yes, but it's also important to community well-being, and it's meaningful to our young people, our young adult partners, their families, their children, and their future descendants. So please join me in a round of applause as we celebrate 10 years of good, meaningful, impactful work. Thank you. Thank you, family, because now I am getting to the good stuff. I am so excited now to introduce Dr. Shawn Ginwright. See, this is the conversation we've all been waiting for. And for those of you who may be meeting him for the first time, I want you to know that Dr. G is a leading innovator, provocateur, and thought leader on African American youth, youth activism, and youth development. He is a professor of education and Africana Studies at San Francisco State University. He's also the founder and chief executive officer of Flourish Agenda, which is a research lab and consulting firm whose mission is to design strategies that unlock the power of healing and engage youth of color and adult allies in transforming their schools and communities. Dr. G's new book, The Four Pivots, Reimagining Justice, Reimagining Ourselves. Hopefully you all received a copy when you registered. Most importantly, family, here's what I want you to know about Dr. G. He addressed our network for the first time back in 2018. And at the time, Dr. G talked about healing-centered engagement. And what landed in a powerful, transformative way with our network was the concept of la cultura cura. Our friend Jerry Tello at the National Compadres Network helps us to understand that la cultura cura recognizes the importance of cultural values, traditions, and indigenous practices on the path to healthy development, restoration, and a life of well-being. See, Dr. G talked about how healing-centered engagement addresses the politics, policies, and systems that generate intergenerational trauma, and most importantly, how affirming race, identity, and culture is the foundation of healing. Dr. G's talk in 2018 planted the seeds that grew into the garden that has become our belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose work. And so it's an honor to have Dr. G back with us as we continue on a journey from healing-centered engagement to healing-centered leadership. And I already know that today's message from Dr. G will help us to not only dream of a more abundant, a more expansive, a more inclusive future, but it will help our hearts and our minds articulate what the roadmap to getting there looks like, especially as we center community, solidarity, and love in our efforts to achieve this future vision. So Aspen Opportunity Youth Forum family, join me in welcoming back to the stage Dr. G.
So much. Y'all could do way better than that. I need some love. It is an honor and a pleasure to be back here. I was here in 2018, and I feel like it's family, y'all. So I just an honor. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Monique, for inviting me to come and share these ideas with you. We are all in the process of healing from something. We are all in the process of restoring some sense of our own well-being so that we can be more fully human. And oftentimes, I know in my own work, I've been trained to think that my job as a youth development professional or my job as a professor is to give so much to young people or to my students that I forgot how to give to myself. And in the process, I have learned that in order for us to heal young people, we also have to have tools to heal ourselves and give ourselves the courageous permission to take the time to address our own wounds and pains. And so I want to share some ideas with you today in my latest book, The Four Pivots, Reimagining Justice, Reimagining Ourselves, that for me is a permission, right? It gives us a sense of permission for us to think about our own leadership, not so much as a technical strategy about how to support young people, but the kinds of work we need to do internally so that we can actually create the powerful movement for justice that we deserve in this country. I like to start, y'all know I always like to start with a story. And Sao Paul, thank you so much for invoking the story of your mother. Because I'm going to start a story about my mama too. When I grew up, as a child, I have two brothers. I grew up outside of LA, in Riverside, California. My mom grew up in a small town in the South called Trenton. And as a child, my mother used to tell us these magical stories about her own childhood growing up in the South. And she used to tell us that when she was a child, she would climb these mango trees and pick mangoes. And she would tell us as a child that there was a creek behind her house and you could see these lightning bugs. And as a child, we were enchanted by these magical stories she would share with us. She would always tell us about her house and how special this little house that she grew up in. And so as a child, we had this imagination about this beautiful little home in the South where there were mango trees in the back. And deep inside, I always wanted to see that home that my mother grew up in. About 8 years ago, my uncle passed away in Trenton, and my mother was on the way to the funeral, and she was planning, and she said, "Baby, you need to come to the funeral too." I said, "Mama, I'm busy. I got papers to grade, I got stuff to do." And she said, "Get your butt on the plane and get yourself to the funeral." And so I did, like I did what my mama said. And deep down inside, I actually wanted to see that little house that my mother had always talked about as a child. And so we went to Florida, we went to Trenton, and you know how your mamas are. They are so proud. They want you to introduce you to all your cousins. And so we went to the first cousin's house, and we sat down on the couch with the plastic covers. Y'all don't know nothing about that? Okay, that's just my family then. And we drank Kool-Aid and tea, and it was really hot. And deep down inside, I wanted my mom to take me to see that house that she always told me about. And so later in the day, she finally said, "I want to show you the house, baby." And so we walked out of my cousin's house, and we took a left turn. It was like a little dirt road. And I don't know if you've ever been to the South before, but there are these trees. And the trees canopy the streets with moss. And it was just beautiful. My mother and I walked in silence, and I became more and more excited as we walked down that little dirt road. And as the sun was setting, I could see a little creek off to the distance, and I got so excited. And as we got closer to the creek, I could see these lightning bugs glowing and hovering over the creek. And I became so excited. And then finally she said, "We're here." And when I saw the house that my mother had always told me about, when I saw it for the first time, I almost cried, because this is what I saw. It actually wasn't a house at all. It was a shack. And it was the first time that I realized the level of poverty my mother had grown up in. And it was the first time that I realized that my mother grew up in such abject poverty but never shared that story with me. I became so full of emotion, I began to cry. I'm actually getting emotional now just thinking about it. But my mama saw something entirely different, y'all. My mom was like, why are you so sad? She took my hand and she pulled me into the house, and she said, "Baby, this is where we used to keep the number 10 tub." And I was like, just like y'all, I'm like, "What is the number 10 tub?" This is where we used to take a bath. The number 10 tub is the size of the 10 tub where they used to take a bath because there wasn't running water. And she showed me the mark on the floor where their oven was and how it was a pot-belly oven. And she went through every nook and cranny of that little house with a sense of joy, with a sense of happiness. And she turned and looked at me, and she could see my eyes were watering, and I was sad, and she looked at me and took my hand, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, "Baby, why are you crying? What's wrong with you?" I said, "Mom, I didn't know you grew up with such poverty, Mama." And she said, "Don't cry, baby. I want you to know that in this house, I dreamed of you before you even existed. And for you to come back here is the fulfillment of my dreams. So this is a day to rejoice, not to be sad." And it shifted me. It shifted me so much that I realized that my mama understood poverty and oppression, but was not defined by it. I knew and I understood that my mama understood challenges of poverty, but refused to be defined by it because she saw herself and saw me before I even existed. What type of imagination, what type of powerful dreaming does that take? And it's with that message, that story, that I was compelled to really think about this book, The Four Pivots. The issues that we live in, the kind of challenges that we face right now requires a different kind of leadership from all of us who are working with youth and are working in systems where young people exist. The strategies that we have are not simply technical strategies, y'all. We can change the policies and the procedures of the systems that we're in. We can change the rules and regulations, but we also have to focus on our hearts and our imagination. It is only rooted in who we become that will change the systems. The systems will not change us. We have to change the systems. I wrote this book primarily, y'all, for myself, and I need to look at the time because I can talk to y'all forever. I wrote this book primarily for myself because working for 25 years in Oakland, California, working with young people, working in systems, working in juvenile probation, working in schools, I have lost friends because we didn't give them the space to rest. I have lost friends because we didn't even have the language to say you need to be well in this journey. And so I wrote this book largely to remind myself of not only the mistakes I've made in my own leadership, but that there's some lessons about how we need to become more fully human in this thing that we call justice. And so why do we need to pivot? Why did I call it our pivot? We all know and we're all familiar with the challenges that we're facing right now in this country, y'all. We know from all the research that young people's mental health is at an all-time high, and the bandwidth, that is the capacity for us to actually address the mass amount of mental health for young people, is thin and frail. But it's not just young people's mental health, it's ours too. And we know that the ongoing school shootings, and I hate to say this in public, but we know that we have not yet fixed that problem, y'all. And unfortunately, we're going to see it again and again and again because we as Americans have not yet dug deep to imagine the kind of systems and schools that we want. And so we also are challenged with our own psychological challenges in our work with young people. I know in my own work, we weren't giving ourselves the permission to grieve. We didn't even know how to grieve. All we knew how to do was organize. And for those of us organized, sometimes we know we can hide our pain through our work. And we can hide our pain through what we do and not be present for what we feel. And so we are all, in many ways, we're coming up with the best solutions to the wrong damn problems. And I believe that we really need to shift this pivot. We need to change and think more deeply about who we are in this work so that we can engage in our own self-transformation. So this book is really an ethical and moral compass that gives us permission to make these pivots. And the reason I call them pivots is because a change is hard, right? Like if I say you gotta change your diet, that's hard. Or you gotta change your exercise regime, right? That's hard. But a pivot is subtle. It means you change a subtle, slight direction that will end you up in an entirely different place. It's an intentional a pivot to what we want to become as opposed to what we want to avoid. The first pivot in the book is called a pivot from lens to mirror. A pivot from lens to mirror. And a pivot from lens to mirror means that I was trained as a sociologist, that my job was to have a lens and an outward look on what the conditions of young people what young people were dealing with. The lens is an outward look. It is an analysis. It is a diagnosis of the conditions that young people find themselves in. But what I didn't learn in graduate school was mirror work. And mirror work is a lot harder than lens work because mirrors don't lie. Everybody woke up this morning, I can guarantee you the mirror you looked in to brush your teeth, to put your makeup on, it did not lie to you. It told you the blemish, it didn't hide the truth from you. And so mirror work is deep self-reflection. It is asking ourselves difficult questions about our own wounds, our own insecurities, about our own fears and our own hopes and dreams. And mirror work tells the truth about who we need to become. See, lens work is a lot easier because it's always external to us. And it allows us to always look externally about the conditions. But mirror work forces us to self-examine who we are and who we aim to become. But most of us see mirror work, most of us think about mirror work like this. How am I supposed to lose weight if everything tastes good? It's hard doing mirror work. I can't do mirror work. I can't do self-reflection. I don't have time for self-reflection. People don't do self-reflection. Self-reflection is not the real work. Y'all feel me? How's that going to help my young people? How's self-reflection going to help move the movement for justice? But there's all the excuses about mirror work, but we know that everyone sitting in this room is healing from something. That everyone in this room has something that they're dealing with. And so it is our capacity to embrace our mirror work individually and collectively that we become to be more fully human in this work called justice. Here's a question: who do I have to become to create the outcomes that I want? A friend of mine, a brilliant person that I interviewed for the book, Ben McBride, says that the conditions of our society, right, the conditions require us to be different. And so mirror work allows us to begin to capture and ask ourselves those difficult questions. The second pivot is the pivot from transactional to transformative relationships. And we know the distinctions between a transactional relationship that is defined by our role, our authority, our title, our position, to transformative relationships. And these are relationships that are built on vulnerability and trust and intimacy and care and transparency. Everyone in here has a transformative relationship. And those are the relationships that got you through COVID. Those are the relationships where somebody held you and talked to you and listened to you when you was going through something. And we know that from practice, and my own practice, and from research, that we don't get trained how to cultivate transformative relationships. That's something that's always in us. But we know that it is the transformative relationships that matter most in our movements for justice and our connections with young people. I'm going to skip past this a little bit, but this is an example of transformative relationship in a small area of Richmond, California, where a friend of mine, Devone Bogan, used transformative relationships to address the presence of gun violence in the community. I'm going to go quickly over this story just for time's sake. But if you look at bullet point 3 and the last bullet point, the relationship is the intervention, and the intervention is the relationship. And Devone believed that if he created loving, caring, transformative relationships with young people who carry guns and shoot at each other, that can translate to a reduction in gun violence in North Richmond. And when I went to look at what was going on in North Richmond, it didn't look like much. It looked like these older men having conversations. These are formerly incarcerated men that are having are talking to the young men on the street. But one of the things that Devone told me they're trained to say is, hey man, you know what? I want you to be alive and free, and I love you. Now I thought it was like corny as hell, like I love you. We're like, really, dude? But when I actually interviewed these young men, this is what they said. They see them as their uncle. They see them as a part of their extended family. And one of the things they said is, we don't tell them not to carry guns, but if they do carry guns, we tell them to come see me first. There was an instance in North Richmond where the young men were going to go shoot up a party, but they called Joe right here. They called Joe, and Joe said, hey, I know y'all got to go shoot up the party, but come see me first. They came and saw him, and I know this sounds funny. They were all hyphy, and they were getting ready to, go to the party. Said, I know y'all got to go do that, but let's go get some pizza first. I know that sounds funny, but if you're a 13, 14, 15-year-old boy, right, that's who they were working with, they decided to go get pizza. And he talked them down, and he de-escalated them, and he became like their uncle. And if you do that over time, this is the results you get. In 2009, they had 45 homicides, and by 2014, they had 12. And it is the power of the transformative relationship that allowed for this to happen. The third pivot is a pivot from problem to possibility. And this is all of them are important, but the conditions of poverty make it difficult for us to see beyond it. One of the greatest casualties of oppression is the destruction of our capacity to dream beyond it. I'll say it again. One of the most dangerous consequences of oppression is the destruction of our capacity to dream beyond it, like my mama did. And so when we are engaged, when we're in the condition of oppression, all we can do is think about lower levels of oppression. All we can think about is lowering violence. All we can think about is not completely seeing beyond that condition. And so most of the time, this is the most challenging work before us because the conditions of problems are real and they're in front of us. But like my mother, we also have to build our own capacity to dream. This is an example of an exercise I did with my graduate students at UC Berkeley. I asked them to write a one-page paper about their work. And what I found is that they use terms in this confined column. My job is to resist police brutality. My job is to disrupt racism in schools. My job is to fight for justice. My job is to confront white supremacy. And I asked them to then tell me about their job, but to only use terms that are open terms on the right. And they said that was the hardest damn exercise they ever had to do. I asked them to write their jobs by using terms like dream and discover and create and design. And while the words that are in the confined column are important, they are not complete because we also have to embrace the possibility open words that allows us to see beyond the conditions that we find ourselves in. This is a quick story of a young man who I was doing a healing circle, and these young men had all kinds of trauma, and all the young men shared stories about who they wanted to become. And this is a picture of John here. And when it came to John in the healing circle, the young men were talking about how they wanted to create a business. They wanted to create their own t-shirt company. John just said, I wanted to be a firefighter. And at the time, John was homeless. He was substance abusing. In fact, he was high actually in the trauma circle that we were engaged in. And after a few years, after a few months, we began to talk about their dreams and really focus on what they wanted to become. After the circle was over, I gave the young men my phone number, and I would be in contact with them from time to time. And I got a text message from John. This was 3 years ago. And John sent me this picture via text. And he said, Dr. Ginwright, you know what? I want to let you know that it worked. I'm a firefighter in Oakland now. And I use this picture because he has always said that he wanted to have a beautiful family and be a firefighter in Oakland. The power of our dreams matter. The power of our capacity to see beyond the conditions matter. John was able to see who we wanted to become, and just be given the pathways, he was able to actually become that. The last pivot is a pivot from hustle to flow. A pivot from hustle to flow. We work and live and play in a capitalist economy that tells us that we are slaves to the capitalist economy. And it tells us that we actually feel valued when we're in constant, persistent frenzy. We all actually have an addiction to frenzy. What do you mean, addiction to frenzy, Dr. Ginwright? Raise your hand if you have a to-do list. I see you, raise your hand. David, raise your hand. I see, everybody got to-do lists. Now, what's the first thing you do when you accomplish something on your to-do list? You cross it off and you add 3 more things back on it. We feel more gratified when we're engaged in constant and persistent frenzy. And the reason it's an addiction is because we don't even know it. And if we're to engage in deep change, the first part of understanding the pivot from hustle to flow is to understand that frenzy prevents deep change. We can't create deep change in a hurry. For all the funders in the room, for all the people who are in philanthropy in the room, the timelines to create justice in a 3-year timeline strategic plan is a myth. It is a myth. And while philanthropy and while organizations need to have a time frame to get the accomplished outcomes, it is a myth that we can create justice in a 3-year strategic plan. So we have to re-engage and reimagine our relationship with time and justice. This means that we have to begin to set more realistic timelines for ourselves. It means that we have to have more spaciousness to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And it means that we have to engage in flow, which is to take time, y'all. Take time on a daily basis for us to do deeper reflection. It means that sometimes you just take a walk. It means, what is your practice for flow? Everyone should have a flow practice every day that you do to empty your mind of frenzy. But most of the time, we engage in flow by using our cell phones. Quick, and then I'm running out of time here. I want you to think about how many steps a day does it take for you to go get your phone? Think about it. Come on. For most of us, it's 0. That means that you can't actually go get your phone. That means it is a part of who you are. And that also means that the buzzing, the ringing, the text messages are also part of our frenzy. Flow means that we are aware of that and we recognize that if we do not create practices of flow, that it actually becomes detrimental to our well-being. I want to encourage you to read the book. I want you to encourage you to think deeply about the concepts in the book. And I want to encourage you to actually engage in the practices. Mirror work, possibility thinking, engaging in transformative relationships, and engaging in flow. I want to end with this quote. This is a story. I just skipped past some slides, y'all, because I'm running out of time. But I want to end with this quote by Michelle Alexander, who I think is the most brilliant legal mind of our time. And in 2017, Michelle Alexander said she wasn't going to be practicing law anymore. And the reason she said, I'm not practicing law anymore, is because the real questions of this society are not legal questions. They're not political or policy questions. At its core, the questions that we're dealing with as a society are spiritual and moral questions. And she enrolled into the Union Theological School because she realizes that if we're able to engage in spiritual questions about who we are, who we aim to become, we can actually create the justice that we all need. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you, guys.
I was going to ask them to show you some love. They didn't.
Are we going back?
There's no microphone up here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Aspen Opportunity Youth Forum family, for showing Dr. G so much love. So we are now going to transition into the panel part of our conversation. But what I want to invite you all to do, because we're going to make sure we create space for questions, is to just think about what's in your heart, what's sitting in your mind, what questions do you have for Dr. G, What resonated with you? How did this land when you think about your work? How did his talk land as you are dreaming of the future? And whatever's sitting with you, I want to invite you to hold on to, because we're going to get into it. And with that, I want to invite all of my panelists to come up and join me. Yeah, show them some love. Thank you. Thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, so for those of you who have been with us, you already know where we're going to start. But for those of you who are new to the Forum family, we always have to start with what's sitting in your heart, what's sitting in your mind, and what resonates with you. But before I go there, I'm just saying that to get them, warmed up, get them prepared. What I need to do is also introduce my panelists. I won't do bios. We keep bios in the app. But what I want you to know that Dr. G's call to action about how we are dreaming of the future together and how we are changing our relationship with ourselves, with our organizations, and with the greater society in order to push toward this much more expansive vision. I am so honored to sit here on this stage today with some of the greatest visionaries that are not only doing that interpersonal healing work, but they are leading in their organizations and at the national level to create and in their entrepreneurial work to create an expansive vision around what it means for us to heal as a country. And I just want you to know that because it's such an honor to share the stage with them. So I want to open this up. We just heard this incredible call for pivoting, for healing from Dr. G, and whoever wants to kick us off, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to our network and then just share top of heart, top of mind, what's resonating and sitting with you as you heard Dr. G address our network this morning.
I'll jump in. Byron Sanders, President and CEO of Big Thought. Welcome to our state.
Hey.
Come here from Dallas. Brother. There's a conversation I had recently in a group about, and this is on, from transaction to transformation with our relationships. And he said something that I'll never forget. His brother's William Jackson, and he said, we get these frameworks that we get handed to us from institutes, think tanks, things like that. But, you wonder why sometimes it doesn't stick. You wonder why you have a 10-year initiative and it didn't accomplish what it, and the people who it is supposed to be serving don't even know about it. They don't even know it by name. He's like, we're taking the soul out of the framework. Come on. And putting the soul in the framework, it's what that Michelle Alexander quote was all about. And we haven't made it part of the pie. You have to have outcomes, you have to have goals, you have to do all that stuff. But where's the humanity? It's reinserting the soul in the framework. And to that point, the best way you can do that is starting with me. That's the mirror part. So thank you. Thank you for giving us. That was a gift.
Thank you, Byron.
I love that. I can jump in. I'm sitting with something you said around transactional to transformational. The relationship is the intervention is the relationship. Because it made me think about what it takes to build and maintain strong relationships, in particular across difference and across race. And I forgot to introduce myself.
That's all right.
I'm Aria Florant. I am the co-founder and managing director of Liberation Ventures, and our work is to build the power to win federal comprehensive reparations for Black Americans. And so we have a very expansive way of thinking about what reparations means, and at the heart it is repair. And so what I was sitting with is just how important it is to be able to repair our relationships. Because anytime you have difference, there will be conflict. And it's not conflict that's the problem. it's conflict when we're unable to repair that conflict. And so I'm sitting with just how important it is for us to build the muscle of repair in order to be building the kinds of relationships that we need to do this work.
Thank you, Aria.
Nick now Josh, Skuyenikoy. Good morning. Weshkwell, Matewa-Mateshop, Esi Hapau, Klamath Awk. I live in the town of Klamath. My family's from the village of Weshkwell. What really resonated with me this morning is all of the talk about stories and sharing the stories of our shared trauma from our families, how that was passed down. I'm the director of the Klamath Promise Neighborhoods in Klamath, Del Norte County, upper northwest corner of California. And our task is to bring together folks who traditionally do not work together. I'm working through the Yurok tribe. We're bringing people together from, so the Promise Neighborhoods, for those of you who don't know, works on a continuum of care from cradle to career. And we're bringing together folks from, the early learning world to the K through 12 world, to our after school programs, to our mental health and public safety, and all those sectors coming together. And Promise Neighborhoods is like the connective tissue, bringing everybody together. And we have this daunting task of bringing folks together who have this shared trauma in our county, in our community, of violence and oppression and racism. And we're sitting together trying to figure out how to provide a more fluid, more humane education to our kids. And we're just starting this work. And so I really appreciate this as a simple and elegant guide. And I'm going to use this book with my team, and we're going to work through this stuff. Like I said, we're just beginning this journey, so thank you.
My name is Israel Juarez from Denver, Colorado. Also known as Israel the Visionary. I'm here with the Aspen Institute, partnered with the Fresh Tracks, where we've been working on well-being, wellness, defining what wellness is. And a lot of y'all heard, I created the mental health song. That was just my journey of healing. That was my form of healing, was just the creative arts. And I like just even the pivot idea, because I feel like I've been pivoting my whole life. Just, I gotta go here, I gotta go here. So just being on the panel with y'all and being able to speak with the community, I'm thankful to be here.
So I just want to build on what Israel just his introduction, because he talked about this. He's an artist, he's a research navigator with Fresh Tracks, the Wellbeing Project led by Juan Martinez and Andrea Wagner. He also has been a partner, like he just mentioned, with the Aspen Forum family for 10 years now, really since the founding of our network. And as we were thinking about our conversation for today and really preparing to have a conversation specifically around healing, there are a couple of things I wanted to lift up and build this conversation around. I love that you introduced yourself as a visionary, also an influencer, and specifically through your art. So, we have this, and I think this probably exists across a range of spiritualities, this idea that your gifts will make room for you. And I want to actually use that as a frame to introduce or reintroduce Israel to this network if you're meeting him for the first time, because through his gifts, through his art, through his music, he is pushing the culture on healing, on mental health, on well-being, so that future generations can embrace the type of message that Dr. G was speaking to in a way that is transformative. And so visionary, yes, and changing the culture for future generations. I talked about visionary sitting here, but I want you to show Israel and all of our panelists some love for the ways that they're doing this vision work. So I'm going to come back to you in a moment, Aria. I want to come to you now because you talked about your work, but I want to invite you to dig a little bit deeper on this culture of repair frame, right? Because what Dr. G's remarks help us to think about is the cultural shifts that are necessary to get to the individual healing that he's calling for and the collective healing that we all know is so important to our future. Give us a sense, Aria, of how your work is meant to shift our culture in ways that foster greater healing for everyone.
Thanks, Mo. So I mentioned that we have an expansive definition of what reparations means and who they are for. Most people, when you think reparations, a lot of people don't really know how to define that, but often if you're forced to guess, you'll say cash. And we think about it as so much more than that. So not only just financial, but also non-financial. And when we started this work, we asked ourselves essentially this orienting question from the beginning, like, what is repair? Because repair is such an abstract concept that it's hard. If you can't break it down and define it, it's very hard to operationalize it. So we did a ton of learning about reparative processes all over the globe. And we also developed a framework that we try to put as much soul into as possible. But it really is sort of just what are the components of repair. And so our framework is reckoning, acknowledgement, accountability, and redress. And we think about those four things as not linear, but as a cycle. And I'm now starting to think about, the more you talk, Dr. G, about the four pivots being braided, I feel like actually our four components are braided too. So reckoning, it's really the act of learning and deeply understanding harm that has been caused. Acknowledgement is taking that learning and understanding and actually naming it, voicing it. And I think this really gets to your question, Mo, because the learning can't just live in our heads. Like, we actually have to voice what is okay and what is not in the public domain to change culture. Accountability is really this sort of the inner work of committing ourselves to doing what we know is right. And that, I think it goes to some of the points that you make about truth in the mirror work too, is it's getting in touch with our gut so that we really feel confident in what we know is right and how we can live in alignment with what is right. And then redress is really taking action to not only restore folks to the where they were before harm, but also sort of dreaming and possibility creating about what's possible when we are living in a world with a culture of repair. And so our work is about policy change, but we know that policy change is actually only as durable as the culture change that precedes it. So a lot of times we just talk about our work as really trying to build a culture of repair. And I think that the last thing I'll say is that the framework is meant to be able to be operationalized from the micro to the macro and across contexts. So this isn't just the work of the public sector, this is the work of the private sector, of the social sector, of our churches, of our schools, of our families, of our communities, because we have to actually be able to experience repair on a day-to-day basis for us to be actually embedding it into the norms and the values and the practices that we take on a daily basis. So this is about, our relationships with our parents or with our friends and how we embed reckoning, acknowledgement, accountability, and redress into those just as much as it is how we become agents of repair in the institutions that we work in, because so many institutions have caused harm to Black communities, and we are the ones that have to take responsibility for repairing that harm. So I'll say one other thing, which is just that I think, one of the things that we've learned in our work and in our research is just how important all four of them are. They make each other real. A lot of people will say to me, Aria, like, you know, the money, there could never be enough money. And that is so true. And one of the things that I say is the money is just part and parcel with what makes acknowledgement feel real.
That's right.
Because we all know the disappointment of someone apologizing to us, for example, and then going on and doing the same thing again, right? Or we all know the sort of the cheap feeling of when say a company compensates because they've done wrong, they pay money, but they don't apologize, and they don't even try to understand what they've done wrong. And so these four components are also sort of mutually constitutive of each other. So when we think about how to embed them into our institutions, we have to be doing all of them kind of at the same time. So.
Thank you. I'm seeing lots of head nods, so go ahead and jump in. Jump in.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and, because I have to do this. I have to do the thing that we're talking about. I've had a very, so I'm going to share some stories. I talk through stories. It's somewhat of a culture thing, and it's just, it's also who I am.
Yes.
I had quite a week last week. A week ago today, I learned that a close cousin of mine was fishing in the middle of the night at the mouth of the Klamath River, and it's very swift right now. We're blessed to have a good year of rain. It's great for the fish that are returning. It's great for our whole ecology. He was out in the middle of the night in dangerous conditions, and he was swept out of the mouth and drowned. This is my cousin Ira. Now, Ira and I have a similar story. We both had abusive fathers, and both of our mothers had to leave the situation. The irony is he moved to the reservation to escape the situation, and I had to move away. But our lives intersected because, of course, I often went back to visit, and he is about 4 years younger than me, and he taught me all this. He called it Indian stuff. He taught me about bow hunting and fishing and, you know, survivalist and all that kind of stuff. And he was a great teacher. I mean, we had some awesome times. Sometimes we'd go out in the woods in the fall when it was gathering time, and we'd spend a day and we'd gather huckleberries, mushrooms, acorns, and then maybe get a deer on the way out. That's the kind of guy he was. So when we learned of his passing, it was heart-wrenching and all that, but it's like, it wasn't that surprising. He kind of lived life on the edge that way. He had substance abuse issues. He drank a lot, and we expected this. So a few days later, after we learned about this, we have this tradition called the Salmon Run. We've been doing this for 20 years. In 2002, there was a major fish kill on the on the Klamath River. Nearly 20,000 fish were washed up on the shore. And this was due to the water allocation policies at the time. And so students at Hupa High, upriver on the Trinity, started this tradition of the Salmon Run. So every year, we start at the mouth of the Klamath, and we run over 300 miles relay up to the source of the headwaters. And this started on Thursday. So Wednesday night, family got together and we said, we can't go forward with this without doing something for Ira. So we went out to the mouth of the river, and we spoke to him, and we said our prayers, and we put flowers in the water, and we burned root and offered tobacco and all of those things that we do. It's also in our tradition that we acknowledge that the river takes people as sacrifice. is part of the reason why it feeds us salmon. There's always the sacrifice going on. So we recognize that sacrifice. So the run starts Thursday morning, and we get out there. Now this is the part about the healing and what it looks like in my tribe and with our people, and what we're trying to promote and what we're trying to share with our community and the world, for that matter. When we're running, we have young people, old people, and we go from village to village, and each village welcomes us in and provides food for us. But along the way, there's a lot of time for discussion, and we're spending that time, we're talking about what the future looks like. We're talking about our visions, our goals. We're talking about our pain and our struggle all the way. I had an excellent conversation. My running partner was, he's an officer with our public safety department, and we had a great conversation about starting a crisis intervention team. We have all the things in place to do it, and that's one of the goals now of Promise Neighborhoods, is we're going to deal with this opioid crisis by bringing all these folks into the room together, and we're going to talk about this shared pain and this healing, and we're going to develop a response that, right now in the schools, they are not prepared at all for dealing with this crisis that's coming on us, right? They don't have a plan. They don't have a vision. They don't know how to respond to the trauma that's going to be inevitable students are losing family members, and it's only a matter of time, folks, before we lose someone in a school. Are we prepared to deal with that? So we spent hours discussing how we're going to address it. And this is what our lives look like. This is our ceremonial life. When we go to ceremony, it's the same thing. We're working together as a community. We're addressing that pain, and we're healing one another. The issue, and where I hope Promise Neighborhoods can be effective, is that life of recognizing our pain and trauma and healing one another and sharing our stories. That stops when we get to these institutions, into the schools, and it doesn't translate. And so their lives, while on the road, on the salmon run, is rich and fulfilling and meaningful. They go back into that school site, and it's destructive to their humanity. So that's the problem that we are addressing.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, Dr. G, I want to invite you into this conversation, but I first want to bring Israel into this conversation because I know that through your work with the Wellbeing Project, you and your peers are reclaiming your power through identifying wellness strategies, mental health strategies, reshaping our culture of how youth and young adults of color are self-defining well-being and healing. And I wanted to invite you to share what that experience has been like for you.
So the way that it's been brought back in my community is I also had a brother who passed away, so I definitely relate to that a lot. And just through the healing journey alone and through the research of the work with the Aspen Institute and with Fresh Tracks, is as you get to hear those stories, as Dr. Shawn Ginwright said, is like you hear like we all dealing with something and healing, and it's like that was like the motivation to be like, all right, we got to do something different and stuff. And that's why me personally, I always try to show up with music and healing, because I feel like music is interconnected, and joy, like think about it, your heart is vibration. So we all have vibration in our soul, right? So when you think about the music and how it's going to connect to the art and how we're going to connect to these young people, it's like we got to talk to them where they at. And my brother died from an overdose. And that right there was like when you lose someone and you start to think about it, like at some point, and like you said, 10 years in the work, 2016 was the first time I got asked to come to Aspen. 2016 was the same year I lost my brother. And even around that time, like I didn't want to do music no more. So within the last year, while doing the wellness project, interviewing the young adults, getting their surveys, hearing the stories, and coming out with a song like the mental health song, and being able to speak to the community. It's like you want to move forward, you want to build something and stuff, because it's like we all are hurting out here. We're all dealing like with mental health issues, but at the same time though, I feel like there's hope because we're in community, we're having the conversations, and all the great work you guys are doing today is motivation. We're setting the foundation for the ones before for us to keep pushing forward. And as you said, like the visionary is like the vision for the future is like hopefully 5-10 years from now when we are having these conversations, we ain't feeling as, you know what I mean, lost, the anxiety's driven down. And you know, the research that we're collecting is gonna be able to push us forward to the next chapter.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Thank you for that, Israel.
Thank you, Israel. Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, I think this, and first I'm just sorry for your loss, brother. So sorry. This is the most important work we could be doing in this country. We are at the precipice of a failed and fragile democracy where we are moving to a place where we are unable to see each other as human beings. It is a place where if you see yourself as a Democrat or a Republican, that those two things, just those two things are dehumanizing. And that is a dangerous place to be for a nation. And so I believe that the work that we're doing about healing, it is for young people, but it is much bigger than that because it has the capacity to really heal a nation that is hurting and that is wounded. We have never healed as a country. And so I think that these kind of conversations, my vision is that healing and well-being becomes so normalized in schools just like PE.
Yes.
My vision is that we don't even call it mental health. We just call it, well-being in schools, where there's a function and purpose, that the purpose of school is to learn, but it's also to be well, and that we actually dedicate time. I always like to say that we've created schools and to a certain extent, community-based organizations are modeled after factories, where you have inputs, and again, I'm talking to the philanthropy here. How many young people did you serve? What are the outputs? What are they're modeled after a factory mentality. That is, if we have enough inputs, then we'll get the output. And my vision is that this country, we shift from that metaphor of a factory to a greenhouse. And a greenhouse means that you don't necessarily worry about the outcome because the conditions are right. If you focus on the water, you focus on the soil, the amount of sun that comes into that greenhouse, you don't gotta worry about if the tomatoes they're gonna grow. And so I think that this type of conversation around healing allows us to actually reimagine the type of organizations and schools that we need to have in this country.
So I want to go to Dr. Ishita Govan, and I think we're going to have time to take maybe one or two pressing questions from the audience, so please get ready. But I want to do a quick round of building on your future vision. So Byron, Aria, if you feel like you haven't done it, Josh, Israel, just give us a sense of, in the next 10, 20 years, how are you dreaming about the future? And especially, Josh, in your call for the healing that's necessary for our young people when they enter into schools. I want to invite you to build upon that and the work that you're doing, Israel, as well, with the music. We'll start with you, Byron. How are you dreaming of the future based on the work you're doing today?
So I didn't give you guys the context. Big thought in Dallas. Our work takes place primarily in non-traditional learning spaces. We're saying we're creating creators for a 21st century world. One of the things that we do is we do a lot of work in the juvenile justice system. And we've been doing that work for almost 30 years, right? And y'all, I'm not breaking any news here. These are some of the most amazing, talented, great, loving, hilarious human beings you've ever met in your life, right? But for the trauma that our communities and our disinvestment and our apartheids have brought, many of them wouldn't be in the situations that they're in. And so we have a program called Creative Solutions, and the whole idea, we call it a trauma to healing workforce, arts as workforce program. The children are working artists. They are paid artists over the course of this summer. And the whole point is for whether they go the visual arts track or the performing arts track, they master their story. And when they do that, it's amazing that same young person that never felt like they fit in school, and never felt like, you know, they could be the kid who gets the good grades or gets the good progress report coming home, that kid is standing up with their head held high, their shoulders back, giving soliloquies, monologues, dancing, creating pottery, creating these beautiful works of art. And we also happen to have the lowest recidivism rate program serving the juvenile justice system in the Dallas County. And it's specifically because it is based on relationships and it's based on healing. And so the thing that I would love to happen, the imagination that we have engaged in is casting a vision where a young person does not have to go to jail before they get something that can change their life.
Come on.
That's what one of our alums said. He said that to us. He said, why do I have to go to jail before I got something that changed my life? Why are some of my friends trying to get low-level offenses so they can get in this program? Real talk. So it's forced us to swim upstream and to go to the places that have probably done the most harm and bring that healing there. We now have a co-responsibility with Fort Worth Independent School District on running the alternative school. The place that has been served as baby jail, we are now taking that and transforming that into a place of healing. We're going into middle schools, going into high schools, swimming further upstream so that we don't have to have a place where we're trying to reform something. We have transformed it from the beginning. Swim further upstream, insert healing as a practice and as the soul of the framework, and we ain't gonna be having these conversations in 20 years, y'all. So that's what I'm excited about.
All right, okay.
I guess I'll jump right in. On the report that we put out, I actually have a quote from one of the poems where it's like, I'm 3 generations of broke, first generation of woke. And it's like reframing that where it's like, I like how you started off the story of relearning your history and, you know, following your mother's journey is sometimes you have to go back to, you know, those humble beginnings and see where you're coming from to know where you're going.
That's right.
Because I feel like a lot of times we don't know where we're going. And it's like, how can you heal if you've never been taught to heal? How can you heal if you in a home where they're telling you, oh, wellness doesn't exist? And as we start to learn that and share that with people, it's even myself, it's the first year I went to therapy, even just being with the project. It's like, how can I be on a project for well-being if I ain't good with myself? You know what I mean? So it's like, even that alone is like, and now I just found out recently my little brother's in therapy now. And he's like, he called me, he's like, hey, big bro, I'm doing this because of you. And I was like, wow. When like a month before that, he's like, I don't need no therapy.
Right.
And it's like, you know, the little changes like that is you see one seed and it's going to start to grow.
That's right.
It's going to start to grow. And I guess the vision for the future is let's just keep pushing love, healing, music, of course, because, you know, we got to get the vibration going.
Yes.
And I'm excited to tap into the book deeper and share it because I really feel like even just with the work I'm already doing and the knowledge that I'm learning tonight, I'm going to continue to do great work with everybody here tonight.
I love it.
Love it.
I'm going to say something out loud that I don't know if I've ever said before. It just sort of came to me. I think that all of our schools in this country are boarding schools.
Let's go.
A lot of you, They are designed to prepare kids for an industrial society, to become cogs in the machine, and they haven't changed in 100 years. And so, you know, that the trauma that comes from that experience, being treated as subhuman, inhumanely, I think that's something that we share as an American experience. And the vision that we have, so we're all living in this post-industrial society, right? And we're still going to these schools that prepare us for nothing. And the kids, there's a reason they act out. There's a reason they turn to substance. There's a reason, because it's meaningless to them. So our strategy with Promise Neighborhoods is we're going to augment their lives outside of that institution, right? We're going to provide opportunities for them to connect to the land around them, connect to one another, and have these very human experiences. And then at the same time, we're going to condition them and teach them how to be change makers, how to organize, and then how to go into those schools and demand that those schools look more like this humane treatment that now they're accustomed to. So it's going to be, we're doing things like we're starting community gardens. We're doing these runs. We're having these summer bridge programs where they have these cross-cultural experiences. They have these survival experiences that boost their confidence and give them these connections. And then we're going to demand that our education system provide that for them, so that there's no disconnect, there's no crossing back and forth between worlds, which is maddening, right? Yeah. For all of us. We've all experienced that.
Sure.
So I want to name this because Dr. G provided us this very beautiful, expansive frame. I want to just say, Aria, this culture of repair, how we shift our culture in ways that foster greater healing. Thank you for that offering that you gave to the network today. Byron, centering humanity and how we are treating all of our young people in ways that not only break this cycle, intergenerational cycle of incarceration, but center the humanities of our young people so that they are self-determining our future. Thank you for that work and the vision that you are speaking and manifesting into the future. Josh, naming what is so fundamentally broken in our society with this education system, and then doing the type of community building work that is about the humanity, the culture, the identity, those values that we know transform us and play a role in our healing work. I want to thank you for that offering that you brought into the space as we think about how we continue to get to this world of belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. And then, Israel, I said this to you from the beginning. You are shifting the culture for future generations with this frame that you have around well-being, around mental health. That starts with you, as you named, that, lens to the lens going from others to self, naming that, and then at the same time, bringing that to your family, bringing that to your peers, bringing that to the community. I opened us up by talking about how each of them in their work are these visionaries that are not only dreaming of this more expansive future around belonging, but they are doing this healing work to get us there. I want to ask you to join me in showing them love for what they've offered us here today and thanking them for the work that they're doing. Thank you for sharing. And every time Dr. G is with us, he offers us a roadmap, y'all. So we already know that in the next couple of years when he's back, what we have manifested here today we will continue to build on together. Thank you, Aspen OYF family. Thank you. So we are going to move into our breakout sessions. Those breakout sessions should be started right at 10. I'm going to invite you to transition as quickly as you possibly can into breakouts.
Allow me to.